I'm here to tell you everything I know about the unknown. But before I do, I want you to imagine yourself walking across a foreign country carrying a backpack. In that backpack is a change of clothes, a notebook, a water bottle, and not much else. What would that be like? Here is a picture of me. Here's a picture of me on a 3.5-year global environmental walk in the early 1990s. I was on it for about a year, walking through parts of the United States, India, Pakistan, and Japan. This is somewhere in Asia. Often when we walk through these cities, the adults would be somewhat afraid of us, but the kids would run up to us and want to engage and touch our skin and look in our eyes. And here are kids in Pakistan. Here are kids in Japan, and you can tell the kids are the same everywhere they go. They want to be in pictures, and they smile and they engage, and they're full of life. This is a group of us in Pakistan. Often we didn't have any money, or we had very little money, so instead of staying at the guest houses or hotels, we would ask them if we could sleep on their roof at night. And the roof was beautiful. We could see the stars. So this is on the roof of a guest house in Pakistan. This is a picture of my friends Esria and Sharon, Esria and Teru, and you can see the kids in the background, just full of life. So, walking across a country is hard. There's so many different challenges, and one of the things I learned that really challenges are inherent in life. There's no way to get through or get by challenges. The question is, how do we relate to those challenges? So the challenges had the walk had a ton of different challenges. One was just extreme heat. Some days it would be hot, some days it would be cold, some days it would rain all day. Some days we'd have blisters or a sprained ankle, but every day we walked, often not knowing where we would sleep that night or where we'd get food that day, but each day we walked. A few of the challenges we faced, one of the challenges we faced was when we were in Pakistan, and the idea was to walk up the northern route of the Karakoram Highway and then walk into China. But once we got to the border of China, the Chinese officials said, you can't walk in here, you have to apply for these visas and do all this stuff, so we couldn't walk in China. So we had to backtrack and go down through Pakistan back to New Delhi and continue the walk from there. One day we were taking a bus from Gilgit in the north to Islamabad in the south, and we heard that the night before, bandits had shot up the bus. And so I asked my friend next to me in Pakistan, I said, is it safe for us? I mean, last night bandits shot up the bus, the same bus. Is it safe for us to take this bus today? And he said, Soren, you have nothing to worry about. They never shoot the bus up 2 nights in a row. Fortunately, we made it through. Another challenge happened when we came to Japan. So the last 3 months of Japan was scheduled to have a walk from Tokyo to Hiroshima, about 3 months. And the plan was we were going to walk with these Japanese Buddhist monks who do a peace walk every year. So there's about 6 of us from the West, and then about 10 Japanese Buddhist monks and lay people. And after about 10 days, it just wasn't working out. And they asked us to leave the walk. You have 6 kind of unruly, hippie anarchists, and you have 10 rule-following traditional monks, and it just didn't work out. So the result was we peace walked differently. So we're on our own in Japan with almost no money, and we had to figure out, how do we survive the next 3 months trying to get to Hiroshima? Where do we sleep? Where do we get food? The first few weeks were hard. We dumpster dived restaurants, and we just kind of figured out how to get food. And then we realized something. So this is a picture of me doing something called dumpster diving, which is kind of what it sounds, getting food out of dumpsters. But this was part of the challenge. We had to figure out, how do we meet this challenge? And what we discovered was, in the convenience stores, they sold these sushi dinners that were wrapped and dated and had rice and vegetables and fish. And at the end of every day, the convenience store clerks would take out the dinners that had ended their date, became outdated that day, and they'd put them in the trash. So all we had to do was walk around the convenience store at night, and we would have wrapped, fresh, well, fairly fresh, sushi dinners. And that became 90% of our food across Japan. The challenges were there. The question was, how would we relate to that challenge? So we finished our walk, and we survived. Then I came back to the States, and it's like, what do you do next? I'd been used to walking and surviving off dumpstered food and just making my way across Japan, and I wanted that same level of excitement and unknown that I found on the walk, and I wanted it in my daily life. So I figured out a bunch of different projects, and I finally decided on, you know what I'm going to do? Meditation had been really important to me in my life, and so I thought, I'm going to go into youth prisons, and I'm going to teach meditation for these kids in youth prisons. Now, here's a picture of me in one of those juvenile halls. You can't take pictures of the kids' faces because they're juveniles, but this was the class that I would teach. Now, the problem was I had no idea how to teach these kids. But my experience on the walk showed me that I had a lot of experience having no idea how to do something, and that if we go into the unknown will teach us what we need to learn. We don't need to know everything going in. If we show up with an open mind and an open heart, the unknown will teach us. And the kids did, and one of the most valuable lessons came from a kid named Jamal. Jamal was about 15 years old from Brooklyn, and every Thursday night he would come to my class. It was a voluntary class, so he didn't have to be there. And when I would go through the meditation, he would look around the room, barely paying attention. And when we do the yoga, which I taught, he would barely lift his hand. But after class, Jamal would thank me, and he would shake my hand or give me a fist bump. And eventually he started giving me a hug after class. And it wasn't like the California mushy, like 5-minute hug. It was just like a short, juvenile hall hug, but it was a hug. But over time, I started getting frustrated with Jamal. It's like, why do you come to my class and you don't even participate in what I have to teach? What's your problem? And I was irritated with him. And I'd see him after class, and I would just be irritated. And then I realized something. Jamal did not come to my class for the meditation. He didn't come to the class for the yoga. He came to the class for the hug. He needed a hug so bad, he was willing to sit for an hour in a class he had no interest in, just to get a hug. He didn't have the problem, I had the problem. He was teaching me what he needed to know, and the question was I listening? So after I realized that, I'd see Jamal after class. And instead of being frustrated, I'd be like, Jamal, let me give you a hug. If we pay attention, life teaches us what we need to know. Another of these lessons came after juvenile hall. I started getting really interested in the tech world. Companies like Twitter and Facebook were starting to emerge, and I was just amazed at how all this technology was shaping our future. And originally I thought, maybe I'll go get a job at a tech company. But then I looked at my resume, and I thought, I don't know about this. What were my experiences? Walking across countries, dumpster diving food, and working with kids in youth prisons, not the most tech-oriented profession. So I had to figure something out. So then I realized, what if I combine my interest in mindfulness and meditation with technology? Because there was no doubt technology was going to continue to advance and get niftier and cooler. The real question was the internal technologies of mindfulness, of compassion, and wisdom, were they going to grow as well? Or was the technology going to take us over? So I wrote a book called Wisdom 2.0, and I thought, this is my thing. This is my ticket. The book was published, and nothing. Nobody called, nobody wanted to talk to me. It was just did not get the response that I wanted. But then I thought, maybe this is supposed to be a conversation. Maybe this is a conference. So I started this conference, and originally there was just a few people, and it ended up being thousands of people eventually came to explore how do we live mindfully in this technology-rich age. And over the last 13 years, I've had the great pleasure to interview some of the leading tech and business leaders of our age. And initially, I thought, they must have something special. They must have certain special confidence or knowledge or something. But yet, one, after interviewing so many of them, I realized something. They had the same insecurities that I had. They had the same doubts that I had. What was different? They were somehow willing to show up with that new business idea and have their doubts. It wasn't like they got rid of the doubts and then had their business idea. They brought their business idea out into the world, and they usually failed, and they usually failed again, they usually failed a third time, and a fourth time, and a fifth time, and maybe the ninth time, something happened. And what they presented to the world needed. And that we don't get rid of our insecurities and then do what we want to do. We show up and keep showing up, and something happens. When my son was 4 years old, he said, "Dad, I want to go down the water slide at the pool." Now, this was a big water slide, maybe 2 or 3 stories high, and my son Navar was a young swimmer, about 4 years of age. And I said, "Cool, let's do it." So we get in the car, we drive to the pool. We look at the water slide. He's like, "Dad, I'm ready." So I was like, "All right." He walks up the steps to the top of the slide, and I can see him up there, and there's a lifeguard next to him, and he's looking down, and a few minutes later, he walks down the stairs, and he comes over to me, and he says, "Dad, I can't do it. It's too scary. I don't think I can do it." I was like, "That's all right. Let's just sit here and take some breaths and see what happens next." He's like, "Dad, all right, I think I can do it now." Walks up the stairs again. I see him up there next to the lifeguard, and the lifeguard's like, "Okay, time to go." And he's sitting there looking down like this, walks back down the stairs. This goes on for like 20 minutes, up the stairs, down the stairs, up the stairs, down the stairs. I'm just like, I'd even like forgotten that he was still doing this. Then all of a sudden I look up, and I see this swoosh of blonde hair coming down the slide, and this kid with this beaming smile on his face. And he splashes into the water. And he quickly swims over to the ladder, and he gets out of the ladder. And he starts walking really fast to go up again, and I say, "No, Navar, stop. I have to know, how did you do it? How did you break through your fear and go down the slide? Like, what was it that made the difference? I have to know." He said, "Well, Dad, I went up there, and I was standing there, and I was looking down, and I was looking down, and then I slipped." I said, "You slipped?" It's like, "Yeah, I slipped." And that's life. We think life is a straight path, and we're going to do this, and do this, and do this, and do this. And really, it's about slipping. And it's about showing up. So what I hope is you don't come away from this talk, and you're like, "Wow, I heard this guy who did these crazy different adventures." What I hope you take away from this talk is, what are the water slides in your life right now that are calling you? Maybe it's to tell someone that you love them. Maybe it's to forgive that person who hurt you. Maybe it's to ask forgiveness to the person that you hurt. Maybe it's to take that idea that's been going around your mind for so long, whether it's to write a book, write a play, start a business. Maybe that's your water slide. Whatever your water slide is, it asks that we continue to show up. The secret isn't discovered before we show up. The secret is discovered once we're there. and we're in our vulnerability, and we don't know the results. We tell someone we love them. We do not know the results. We do not know the person's response. And that's what makes life rich. If we knew everything that was going to happen, we wouldn't learn as much, and we wouldn't grow as much. So here's my wish for you. When you approach those moments of unknown in your life, whether they be small unknowns or big unknowns, may you meet them with a curious mind, an open heart, and may you slip. Thank you.